So, welcome to the Tail Slate. Today we are talking about Ghostbusters, a movie that's had a wide range of very passionate opinions. Who knows, you may or may not like our opinion of the film. I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Ghostbusters 2016 was a good movie.
Yeah, it was great.
It's my favorite Ghostbusters movie, and like objectively speaking, probably the second best Ghostbusters movie, maybe the best, like objectively as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, it's like with anything when there's an original film, you can't really say that something's better than that just because you needed that original film.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the new one has so many advantages over the old one, technologically speaking, but they still did a great job of keeping the visuals, the color palette, so many things about it classic, but still making it a 21st century film. I thought the balance of that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by now, most people have either seen it or refused to go see it, and either hated it or liked it somewhat. So I guess what I wanted to focus on is, I guess, some of the reasons that we really liked it, and then take a look at some of the criticisms that people have given and determine if those criticisms are fair or not.
Right?
Great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I saw it twice, went once just on my own to see it, and then my niece, who's 7 years old, seeing the trailers, wanted to go see it.
Yes.
She's had no desire to see the original Ghostbusters. We have them, we tried showing it, but seeing the trailers, she wanted to go see this, so I took her to see it, and she enjoyed it.
This is the thing. It's so important. I laughed in the film. I thought it was hilarious, but I also was really emotional because there was a moment where I realized that I was watching four women not being sexualized, in coveralls, fighting ghosts, kicking butt, being friends, being smart, being funny, and none of the tropes, none of them had to be in love. None of them had to be in a cat suit. And it was really powerful to see that as a woman, and I don't think I realized how much I needed to see that. And in the movie, it was very overwhelming.
It was like seeing Daisy Ridley in Star Wars
Yes, yes.
be Luke Skywalker, and you're like, right, I haven't seen this before. That's why this is affecting me so much. That's why this is so special.
And you know what's cool? You realize, even as a guy, it doesn't make it that you can't relate to those characters. You can totally relate to them, empathize with them, picture yourself being them, even though they're women. It doesn't matter.
Well, hey, man, I've been doing that
For years.
forever. You know, I love Captain America. I love the Hulk. They're not women, but I can relate to them because they're, they're
Humans.
superhumans, but they're, humans.
So yeah, I think that's a very, very good point. I mean, it's an important movie just for that alone.
Yeah, and it's made its money back. Like, it's a successful movie. It's still one of the top 100 IMAX releases of all time. Like, this is a popular film. This is a successful film. This is a good film. So any of the criticisms contrary to that have really no basis.
Yeah, and let's just talk a little bit about, I guess, the story-wise. Is there anything in that you can legitimately pick apart as being bad?
I mean,
there's some weaknesses to it, but
a Ghostbusters movie has never had a strong villain.
that's true.
in the
It was
history
a
of
weak
Ghostbusters.
villain in this as well.
That's true,
And
yeah.
the thing is, this villain we get to meet at the beginning and enjoy for the entire movie, which is a better villain than can be described in the history of any Ghostbusters film. So anyone who craps on the villain, what Ghostbusters movies are you comparing this to? Because they're not strong, interesting, complicated villains with plots that make sense from the beginning historically. This one more so than any of them did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other problems you think it might have had that you can justifiably pick at?
I wish that they had made Leslie Jones's character also a scientist. I do agree with some of the criticisms that having the one black character be from the streets, and I really wish that they had stepped that forward a bit. But I will say, Leslie Jones in that role
She was good.
was incredible.
Yeah. My niece's favorite.
Amazing.
I like what's Patty?
Yeah, Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for a film that moved forward so much in the fight for gender equality, the fact that it basically moved backward for, like, it essentially moved backward.
I feel like it stayed on the same plane.
Well, last time it was a man looking for a job. This time it was just a woman working at the MTA. For all we know, Ernie Hudson's previous job was, something more than working for the MTA.
Right.
So they kind of just didn't move forward.
She was very knowledgeable. I mean, she had interests that she's
They were
obviously smart and
totally
used
useful.
within
Yeah.
the film.
And I do like that it doesn't. I've heard some other criticisms that are like, well, people who work for the MTA, it's not necessarily so that they're not
totally.
intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean, not to denigrate people who work for the MTA either. It's like, I like that she becomes a real important part of the story in the end, and she's the hero in the end that comes out with the idea. That helps not to spoil anything. But,
But I just feel like for all the steps forward made on the male-female equality, it would have been awesome if they did a similar amount on the racial equality.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really my only concern. The only thing I can say, geez, Ghostbusters, you could have done better.
Now, with the male-female thing, I think anybody that really argues that that's a detriment doesn't know what they're talking about, because it really does not make one difference whether they're male or female at all.
No.
There were some people complaining about the fact that Hemsworth's character is a
was
ditz.
stupid. Yeah, so
and
what?
it's like, the only way, do you realize
He's
how
amazing
much...
as a ditz.
welcome to women's roles for centuries.
That's the other thing. It's like, it's an amazing commentary on the ditz character, but more than that, if it was just a complete ripoff of what the Ghostbusters secretary was the first two times, it would have taken even more flack.
Yeah.
So I like that they decided to do something funny and weird. And honestly, I've never liked Hemsworth more in a film.
Yeah, he was
this
fantastic.
Is the funniest, the most charming. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
You got glass in your glasses? That's my
favorite
Oh,
gag
man,
ever.
that was so good.
Such a classic, old school gag.
It's like they kept getting smudgy, so I took them out.
So great.
The one thing I had it's not a problem with. I mean, the movie is fine as it is, but this is something I think it would have made it be more accepted if they hadn't done a complete reboot and had said, let's have this sort of a handing of the torch.
I argue that it is not entirely a reboot, and this is why. Do you remember how in Ghostbusters 2, everybody forgot about the Marshmallow Man, how they all forgot about the entire city being overrun? We've established in the universe of Ghostbusters that the supernatural slowly disappears from the memory of mankind. And so, inside of 20 years, it makes sense that the government would place the 4 experts in ghost busting into places like a university where they can teach other people to do this. And one of them happens to be educated by that man. Then the fact
You mean
that
Spengler?
by
Like the best of
Spengler,
Spengler?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes
Okay.
sense that another one of them would be put into debunking this kind of stuff because he's an expert at this. And it would make sense that poor Ray would
One of
lose
them
his
would drive a
mind, would lose his mind
That
and
was-
finally go, no, he's nuts. And it makes sense that he would finally go all the way nuts. And that Ernie would get into funereal services makes perfect sense. Because you might realize that there's a fundamental difference in the government of Ghostbusters 2016 from Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, and that's that it knows. The government knows, and it looks after things, and it has put those 4 previous Ghostbusters into
Right.
just the right spot to make Ghostbusters happen without making this film feel like it denigrates it into just, hey lady, wear my proton pack. Because that would have completely ruined the importance of them making this for themselves.
I think your theory is a bit of a stretch,
Big time.
but
A little bit of fan fiction.
little bit, yeah. I like it, but I think it's a bit of a stretch. But I do agree that my issue with the passing of the torch would have been that
Who makes the torch?
That the men are then passing on to that it could have been problematic
It
in
could have
that
been,
way.
depending on how they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I envisioned it was they could have still, but exactly as it was, they're interested in ghost stuff, and they find out in their research that there was 4 other guys that did it, talk to them a little bit, find out what they did,
Right.
and then continue on. Like, that's all they needed. I think it would have, and that's part of the problem with the marketing. The original trailer, the first trailer came out, said 30 years ago.
Yeah, that was very confusing.
Yes.
And you're like,
Yes.
hang on, they
In
told us
universe-
it's not
Yeah.
related to what the hell's going on.
That trailer was
It was awful.
Yeah,
That
was
a
not
bad-
a good
That was terrible
representation.
marketing. It was
Yes.
a terrible division, they didn't do a very good job of drawing the line between our world and the world of the Ghostbusters. Because if it said 30 years ago you saw such and such, then we would have realized this narrative is outside of this world.
Right.
But it was inside of it, and that was a big problem. But we have to also remember that a random graffiti tagger accidentally
the sign. I love that.
I love
accidentally
that.
invented the Ghostbusters logo, or did he already know it?
Oh, okay.
All right.
In your fan fiction, yes, you can have that. But I don't think it's in the real.
Are you going to make this fan fiction movie? Where
What do you mean? It's already made.
Oh, funny.
And anyone who like really moans about this not being a passing of the torch, look at it that way. You'll feel better.
There you go.
Nice.
So let's quickly. I took some notes on some of the things that people have said in bad reviews.
Okay.
And we're probably going to get a lot of hate for picking on
Bring it
people.
on.
Picking on people that have been giving it bad reviews online. I personally think a lot of this is jumping on the hate bandwagon.
Oh,
Because
it's easy.
Oh, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, everybody hated the trailer, so this. If you go into a movie trying to look for everything that you're going to hate, you'll find stuff.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, then you'll write or do your review of it and so on. But I really don't think they're
You're
justified.
just gonna get a confirmation
I
bias.
had one
way or the
person
other.
say it's a class 10 stinker.
What?
No.
That's just somebody
I
who
don't
wanted
know
to hate
how
it.
you can
No.
objectively say that. Somebody said it's not a Ghostbusters movie.
But it is. It's,
It is. It looks.
Yeah.
It actually. I mean, some people complain about the effects. That's the style they chose, and it works.
And it's also
Yeah.
the style they chose in the original Ghostbusters
very, very
movies.
similar.
They tried so hard to keep the color palette and the design similar. They tried to keep that on purpose.
Yeah.
And anyone who says they don't like the style of the Ghosts has no business liking the first two.
Well, and here's my thing. I understand that people get very passionate about films that were a part of their childhood, and I know we all grow up with a certain relationship to them, but you don't own the relationship to that. Other people are allowed to explore that
Nor do
IP,
you own, nor
and
do you own the intellectual property.
yeah. So
true.
whenever people have that argument, I'm just like, well, you don't like it, fine, but it doesn't mean it's not a Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, we've other people doing their reviews. They start their reviews. As if that says it all.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
and the number
Wow.
of
Sarcastically.
Yeah.
Right.
The number of panels of entitled white men I've watched on the internet trying to rip this movie apart. Guys, you have no power here. Nobody cares
No.
what your white male privileged mind thinks of this movie. Just let it be a movie and let people who liked it like it.
Go to Netflix and watch the first two.
Yeah.
Like,
You
I don't know,
already
they're already there.
already
Watch
have
the
two
second
Ghostbusters
one. The
movies.
second
Yeah.
one's terrible.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a bad Ghostbusters movie
Although-
starring the four guys you like, you got one already.
Although I have a soft spot for
Viggo the
that second
Carpathian?
one. Yes, I really.
Well, who was the was it?
Janusz.
Who was the villain in the?
It was the painting.
The
Viggo
painting?
Viggo, but
Carpathian?
who did he bring through? Was that
Oh, and
Zool,
Zool.
which is in the end credits of
Oh,
the,
yeah.
Right,
It was
yeah,
nice.
yes.
to the EVP and
Yeah.
What's Zool?
Exciting.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
be cool.
Well, and for people who complained about that, I hope they're not the same people who loved the Joker card at the end of Batman Begins, because same gag.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
thing you liked
Yeah.
from a previous movie
Mm-hmm.
being teased at you in the rebooted version. Like, it's great. People like it. Go watch a different movie if you didn't.
Yeah, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I mean, it's a good movie, hands
Yeah.
down.
Hands
good
down.
movie.
Sorry, haters. Yeah, there was a good movie made called Ghostbusters this year.